Welcome to the Sheffield Sunday As Bill Sees It meeting. This is a main share meeting, and today it is with great pleasure and much gratitude that we welcome John C. from Ontario, who's come to share for about 40 minutes, after which we'll open up for general sharing or if you'd like to ask a question. Thank you, John. It's wonderful to have you here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Natasha. Thank you for the invitation and the introduction. I appreciate all of it. So today we're going to start a journey together, a journey that's going to be in sense 6 months long, one meeting per month, and Young will be sending flyers out as to when these meetings actually happen. So I'm grateful to be here. I'm excited to be here and to share with you my experience. Now, John has been introduced. I've been sober for over 51 years, and I've been active in AA for all of those years. You know, just not active in a sense of going to meetings, of course, and getting sponsees and being sponsored and taking up service jobs and doing talks like this. And I have got amazing experiences around spiritual experiences. And that's what I want to share with you today. I'm about to, not to convince you of anything or attempt to force you in a particular direction. What I'm doing is sharing what I've learned. And my hope is that you'll get value out of that. So I'm not here to please you or entertain you. I'm not here to, as I say, to convince or persuade you about anything. I'm no authority on spiritual matters. I'm simply a sojourner like you on this journey of rugged recovery. And I hope some of my experiences may benefit you. So just to give you a brief history of who I am, I'm in the business of creating positive and empowering futures for clients that I have, and I'm committed to doing that here with you over the next 6 months. To be able to have you see something that maybe you never saw or witnessed before or acknowledged before. And today is an introduction about challenging ourselves as to where we are in this moment. So I have encountered profound depths of God's grace, not as a distant ideal, but as a vivid daily reality. And as we dive into this expanding God's consciousness recovery, a journey from mere act of surviving to a full spiritual thriving. So I would like to take a moment and present to you who you are. So if you have a pen or a piece of paper, just answer the following question. Who are you? And the beginning could be I am, and fill in the blank. And what I like to do is take 2 laser shares of what was written. Anybody like to share and introduce themselves this way? I don't see anybody's hand up.
Oh, Jackie, would you like to come on in?
Thanks, John. Hi, John. My name's Jackie. I'm an alcoholic. I wrote, I am a child of the universe.
Beautiful, beautiful. What does that mean to you, Jackie, when you say that? Where is the center spot of that identity?
What does that mean to me? It means that I am yet just a cog in the wheel of the universe, quite simply.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. A child of the universe. Beautiful. Beautiful. Anybody else? One more?
Pumi, would you like to come in?
Yes, Pumi, I am a child of a loving, living God.
Child of a loving, living God. Beautiful. Fantastic. And what does that mean to you?
Oh. It means I live and sit in the knowledge that I'm loved and valued, even though I don't think so myself.
Okay. So there's an objective truth in that. That's wonderful. Good for you. Good for you. So why am I asking you this? Why am I challenging you to think about who you are? Because there's a sacredness involved in the identity in which you bring forward. I call it a sacred identity. Oftentimes, when we write who we are, and we repeat I am, oftentimes we're challenged with the roles that we play, the experiences that we've had, the thoughts that we have, the feelings that we have, which is not true identity of who you are. If you're a child of a loving and living God, or peace in the universe, it really speaks to the universality of that experience of who, you're much bigger than your daily experiences. That there's something going on here, something that's touched us in a way that has us express that. And each of us in some way can attach ourselves to those two wonderful examples. So there's divinity in us. That's so wonderful. And thank you for participating. So let's prove that there is a God or a universal energy together. I want you to pay attention to your heart space. I mean, you can see me. I can't see myself, but if you can see me touching my heart with a hand over my heart. And I want you to pay attention to that for yourself. Just go inside and start to reflect on the experience of your hand touching your heart. Can you feel the spirit within you? Allow it to occur. Don't try to block it by your thoughts. What's going on here? I don't feel anything, kinds of ideas. And just suspend the thoughts for a moment and allow the spirit to come from your intuition. Allow the feeling to move to the extremities of your body. Perhaps a feeling of warmth and gentleness has come over you, a lightness, a sense of all is well. And as you sit and reflect, you may find that this feeling, this experience that you're having, becomes more pronounced. And you also may appreciate that there is no limits to the spirit within you. Yes, we are limited as human beings. Yes, we have weaknesses and other experiences that we have, but there's something in us, in the center of who we are, in our heart, that's timeless. And what I'd like you to do is just pay attention to your breath as you're experiencing the God within you, the universal energy, if you like, to be part of your experience. 2 quick shares, laser focused.
Carl, come on in.
All right, so just reflect on what I'm thinking and feeling.
Yes, yep.
Great. Carl, alcoholic addict. A oneness, with all the things. I'm sitting outside, just harmony with nature and just connectedness from me to the rest of what is.
A oneness, the restoration of a human being. Oneness. Fantastic, fantastic. You may be thinking, well, I didn't feel that, and that's okay. What we're paying attention to is how you felt. And where you are at is perfect. You didn't have to feel the presence of God in you if you said to yourself, I can't feel anything. There's a blocker there. There's a wall been built, and there's reasons for that. It is not your fault in a sense. So wherever you are at with this is perfectly okay. But did you notice as you're doing this experience with me that you didn't have to be sober one more day, or you didn't have to do the next step? You didn't have to know anything. And this is the segue or the key, the gateway to the spiritual realm. There's no reason to wait. You could be sober one day. You could be still drunk and experience this. Because there's an essence of truth in what we're about to share with each other here, that this relationship that we're having or about to have with this God or universal energy is a loving relationship. And the good news is that we don't have to love first. We can allow God's love, grace, forgiveness, compassion, empathy, kindness, gentleness to pervade our very experience. Now, today we had some people here, I don't know, 55 people or something like that, 56 people. And there's different groups within our group. You know, some of you may be an atheist, which is perfectly okay. And it's a person who disbelieves the existence of God or gods. There could be agnostics in the room where the belief that has nothing is known or can be known about the existence of the nature of God. In other words, there's no relationship there. And there could be believers in it who may believe in God, but doesn't necessarily believe God. See, they believe in God, but they don't necessarily believe God. And what I mean by that is that relationship has been cut off. We are trying to earn and deserve a relationship with God by trying to be better. And it's not necessary. Matter of fact, it takes us away from this relationship. The tools we need to expand and deepen are things so passive and so contrary to the human experience, but so easy. Acceptance, surrendering, noticing, allowing. These are the areas in which we can work to receive the love of this higher power. So, why should you listen to me? Let me set you up as powerfully as I can for this meeting and for the other meetings to follow. My words are not that important. What is important is how you respond to what I am saying. So I'm asking you to take this sacred meeting rather, as if the spirit within you is inviting you or calling you to greatness. See, I love the invitation of come and see. Come and see. Is there a God? Is there not a God? The invitation is extended to each of us that God is inviting us by saying, come and see. So we want to make an informed decision in the sense we don't want to stand on the outside of that experience and try to figure out, think through, is there a God? Looking for facts. Because that's not where the spiritual realm lies. It's not in facts. It's in mystery. It's in confusion. It's about allowing the experience to take over us. Because if we are having a relationship, a loving relationship, a radical loving relationship with this God, we begin to see how beneficial that mutual relationship is. You know, Wilson talked, one of the things that he was a genius about, in my view, is the word power. And that in the first step, we say we're powerless over alcohol. To him, it was a mathematical thing. It was the ability or the energy to get something done. Power. I'm powerless over alcohol. So what we do is we allow a higher power to become our advocate. So the power that we don't have, we can then solicit God's power within us so that we can get things done. Power. See, this loving relationship you have within you, child of the universe, a loving God within you, wants to direct you into fullness and purpose. The reason why you're here. But there's certain things that prevent us or block us from this experience. Let's talk about them for a moment. First of all, it's time. The past, present, future scenario. You may or may not notice how you're locked into your past and allow it to define who you are today. You know, we use labels, we use other experiences that we've concluded, maybe even in childhood, about ourselves and about other people. Judgments. And we continue to allow that to come forward because we keep accessing the past. So we say things like, well, I've always been this way, or my mom and dad were this way, or I didn't get enough attention, or I can't trust myself. You know, we use these past statements as a benchmark for who we are today. And it's all based on myth. That's not who you are. As we discovered up earlier in the meeting, we talked about who we are. I am a child of the universe. But do you believe that or you don't believe it? Oftentimes our intellect mind, our desire to think things out. Why? Because we're trying to control the situation. We have to rationalize what is our experience. And really what we're doing, we're dumbing down the spiritual experience. You see, you can't think this out. Your head in this moment is not helpful to you. It prevents you from experiencing the living God. Because what the mind wants to do is look for proof. The mind wants to argue, debate. And there's certain amounts of biases, they're called biases, that we now have etched a pattern of who we are based on these biases. And oftentimes they're out of our consciousness. They are so ingrained in us that it becomes natural for us to go there. See, the past plays havoc with our present. It reduces our present. So we live in a story, a narrative that was created with some fact and some fiction. And we bundle it all up as if it were true, and it's not. Now, jump into the future. Oftentimes we worry about our future. You know, what about the children I'm having? How are they going to grow up? And how the world wars might affect? We go into this state of worry and concern, which is not very helpful when you want to have a connection with this living God. See, the only way or place that you can meet this living God is in the present moment. This is what I've found to be true. But my mind was so untamed and trained, it would just go for the past, present, and future. I wasn't paying any attention to it. What suffered was this conscious contact with God, which I was only minutes a day, versus living with this God. So we want to make sure we practice being in the present moment. And if you're not used to practicing that, let me give you a hint on how to do it. Immediately pay attention to your breath. Just be conscious of your inhale, filling up your lungs. Hold for a moment and release the air, the carbon dioxide, through your mouth. That is enough to get you in the present moment by paying attention to your breath. Another way is a body scan. If you haven't heard of a body scan, it's just right now, just sense your feet on the floor, feel them, or the back on your chair, feel it. Again, that brings you to the present moment. Very simple. It's not complicated. So as we get to the present moment, we are living life as a process, not as a story. We are about to meet this higher power where? Right here, right now. So that if you want to expand the consciousness of God, practice being present. And if you're new with this, if you're just starting out, you may find that you maybe can be present for 30 seconds or a minute. All of that is beautiful. Because once you start paying attention and practicing, you're able to stay in the present moment longer and enjoy the peace and love and joy that God brings to us if we allow it to happen. So, what are we focusing on? What are we about to focus on? We're not going to do all this today, by the way, but we're focusing on the surrender idea. There's something contrary in the human being that doesn't like to surrender. We want to fight it. We fight our thoughts. We fight our feelings. We fight other people, other countries. Surrender is a word that we really don't appreciate or like. It's a sense of giving up. And none of us want to give up. None of us want to give up control. Until we come to the realization there's many things in our life that we have no control over. There are some things that we do have control over, but many things that we do not. But we want to surrender them, giving them to this God, not as a way of giving up, but as a way of moving forward. We want to practice acceptance. Accepting who? Well, first of all, accepting ourselves. And a great speaker, Brennan Manning, calls for radical self-acceptance. Radical self-acceptance. To know that we're imperfect, not as a thought, but as an experience. See, we know that we're not perfect. But when we come to an experience, we see we made a mistake or we erred or we fell short, we condemn ourselves. We condemn ourselves because there's a certain perfectionism in us. We're ignoring the possibility that we are imperfect. So teach yourself to accept yourself. Then you can accept others. If you can't accept yourself, you can't accept other people. It just doesn't work. Now you can imagine not accepting ourselves or other people, the havoc, the internal havoc that exists as a result of, I should be this. I'm not, completely ignoring your present experience. You should be some other way. And you'll never be any other way other than you, which may be frightening to some people, but believe me when I say this, there's beauty and goodness in who you are. Love. What does it mean to have a loving relationship with this higher power? Something that we can't see. We may be able to feel like the wind. We don't know where it starts or where it ends, but we can't see it. We can't touch it, but we can experience it in a level. So we want to get into this loving relationship, to knowing that God cares so deeply for you, not because you should be some other way, but because you are who you are. You know, with our disease of addiction, you know, we've muddied the waters in our experience, of course. And we see what we've done finally and took responsibility for it. And now we want to go on this radical change to deserve a better life. And what's the matter with me? What's wrong with me that I can't get there? See, that is starting on a slippery slope. Versus, I can see how my experience can help benefit others. And I thank you, Lord, for the experiences that I have. Because now people can see a light on their path as a result of my experience, because I'm prepared to share it. And thanking and being grateful for those experiences today empowers you to keep moving forward. Love. God loves us before we even know how to love God. Forgiveness. To forgive oneself, to forgive other people. If we're in a place of resentment or anger, there's no connection with this love. None. We're angry. Our heart becomes cold and hard. We need to learn to forgive, if that happens to be a problem for you. We'll talk a little bit about grace. Extraordinary love relationship with this God, this power that God provides us in our internal experience. So, what does all this mean? We have three things that we have to deal with. We have to deal with our thoughts, we have to deal with our feelings, and we can deal with our intuitiveness. Now, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be so inclusive, but most of us have relied completely on our thoughts. Because we think it's true. But thoughts are a funny thing. Thoughts are not like a reasonable, rational, logical process we do. Thoughts are, and I use the word thoughting. I'm thoughting all the time. I'm not really thinking. I'm being driven by old scripts. I'm being driven by overwhelm of emotions and thoughts that associate with those overwhelming emotions. And I make decisions based on that experience. So, am I being driven by my thoughts? Are you? Are you enslaved by the thoughts that you're having? Are you enslaved by fear, anxiety, stress? Now, it's okay to have those experiences, by the way. It's normal. but we don't want to be enslaved by them. Because what happens, a life gets caught up like in these elements of thoughting and feeling, and there's no room for intuitiveness. We're actually working against the spiritual connection in which we may desire. Now, am I asking you not to think or feel? No, I'm not. But don't allow them to be the masters of your life. It's only a thought. It's only a feeling. Neither one are not necessarily objective truths. Become an observer of your thoughts and feelings. In other words, you're not associating or attached to them or taking them personally. You become an observer of them. And in that way, you're left open to the ability and the creativity of getting in touch with your intuitive self. So I'm asking you today is to suspend your judgment and your feelings while you're here with me today. Just suspend them. Don't get rid of them. Just suspend them. Smile at the thoughts that you're having. And say, no, I'm not going to pay attention to you today. I want to pay attention to this workshop. And you may find it impossible, by the way, and that's okay. That's okay. Because what you're getting insight into is how much you're being enslaved by those things. And that recognition, that awareness is very, very important. So that becomes a wonderful insight into the barriers to a deep and effective spiritual experiences. We're living in our heads or we're living in our feelings. So all that's there is the practice is separating yourself from those thoughts. That and emotions that drive us into restlessness, irritability, and discontent. Our thoughts and our feelings are unpredictable and often work against us, by the way. And they can't be trusted on the surface of them. Just to acknowledge that is so critical to being present and being in the intuitive self. So, are you enslaved by your thoughts and feelings? Just take a moment and write down if you are or you're not. So you begin to see the barriers that we put up that we can't accept this loving relationship, this intimate relationship, this vulnerable relationship with this God. And some of us may be thinking at this moment, but I just don't believe it. And that's perfect, by the way. It's perfect, because that's the way I used to speak. Well, I don't believe that. Show me. Give me proof. And in step 2, it says to come to believe. We came to believe. We came to believe. Implies a journey. So it shouldn't surprise us that we may not believe it right now. But what we're doing is being willing to go on that spiritual journey. We came to believe. We came to believe by the actions in which we take, either in our minds and our feelings or our intuitive self, that there does exist a power greater than ourselves, a power so unimaginable, so mystical. It's energy that's available to us. And why do we want this energy? We want this energy because we will then solve things that we couldn't solve before. So what is the intuitive self if it's underutilized? And I believe that it is the ability to understand something immediately without the need of conscious reasoning. So intuitiveness in the broad sense refers to the ability to understand, to know something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning. This concept is central to various contexts, from decision-making processes to user interface designs. You know, if you get on a computer, for instance, you may say, well, this software is very intuitive. It seems to lead me in the direction that I need to be led in order to get this action, which I'm taking on the computer, done. It's intuitive. This is the same thing in which we can experience if we practice intuitiveness. That somehow or another, one thing leads to another. This quiet voice inside us in the heart space that exists, it can be called internal wisdom, generational wisdom that's buried deep in our souls, that has answers and solutions for us, but oftentimes we're just too busy to listen. We're too preoccupied with our thoughts and our feelings. Matter of fact, who I am often becomes my thoughts and my feelings. That's who I am. That's who I identify with. Leaving on the table the greatest thing that we could possibly have is that love relationship with this higher power. So intuitiveness is so vitally important. So from a psychological point of view, intuitiveness relates to the use of intuition, the mental process that involves making judgments and decisions based on insights that arise spontaneously without overt analytical thought. What does that mean? That there's something within us that senses something. Each of us. If practiced, we can open up a can, if you like, within us of our goodness, of knowing what to do so we can begin to trust ourselves again. But the God within us, if you like, is providing us with insights that we may not understand, by the way. But it's speaking to us. It's inviting us. It's raising our curiosity to go in a particular direction. Interesting, isn't it? That science has been studying intuitiveness. So it's not only a spiritual matter, it's a study in psychology and cognitive science. So how do we tap into this? This is so exciting for us. This is my journey. To begin to learn that even exists was something, I don't know, transforming for me in the moment that I acknowledge the fact that I have such a power within me. Not me, but being provided by grace in this loving relationship with God. So one way we can start using, as I said before, we become an observer of our experiences and interact harmoniously rather, or others, often understanding feelings and thoughts or needs without explicit communication. We're sensing people. We're not just thinking people. We are sensing people. And we met probably in our lifetime people who seem to be very much on top of that sensing idea, that they just seem to know. That's not just for them, that's for every one of us. To have the confidence to refer to this space in our heart and start asking it better questions. Questions like, what it is you're trying to teach me? What am I to learn here? Show me. Thank you for this thought. Tell me how to get to the next step. So you actually have an open dialogue with this internal heart space called intuitiveness. You begin to communicate with this relationship with this higher power. And you'll be surprised and maybe amazed at what comes up. Because, your friends, you are you. You were given purpose and meaning. You are in this meaning in recovery. I'm afraid to tell you that it's not just for you. It's by design, I believe, so you can go and help other people. So as this begins to open up for you, you begin to see your true purpose, your true meaning in life. You begin to see the sacred identity in which all of us have. That's been buried by character defects, by a shame and by regret, by relying completely and being enslaved by our thoughts and feelings. This is good news, friends. This is good news. So intuitiveness is valued because it enables effective and efficient functioning, whether in making quick decisions, using new technologies, and understanding and relating to others, to become interested in the other person, to step into understanding rather than judging, to feel empathy towards another, to validate and acknowledge them, to encourage intimate relationships with others by being authentic and real. See, these are the things that the human heart desires. This is the reason why I drank. I drank to jump over, to get that feeling that my life has meaning. And of course, we all know what happens there. It just doesn't work. Okay. So, I'm just about out of time. Am I, so how do we do this? The 12 steps talks about this conscious contact. And we begin to accept and allow and to surrender and do passive, what might appear on the surface as passive things. But we're speaking to the idea of that we try to control everything, which creates all kinds of conflict, internal conflict for ourselves. So we want to get used to these ideas that we need to surrender and accept and forgive and to love and to be open to this invitation of come and see. I love that invitation. When I first heard it and read it, hair stood up on my neck, not my head, but my neck. Come and see. Come and give witness to what's possible. Come. And we want to be able to do it by sharing our experiences with other people, to be real, not to hide. This is what I call, I've had to confront this many times in my life, and that's prideful sobriety. I can't show you what I'm really feeling because I'm not supposed to feel this after this number of years of sobriety. So now I start hiding, which is the complete opposite of what this experience has taught me. My experience tells me that I need to be open. I need to share with people that I fear not being relevant anymore. I fear the end of life. And all these things are real to me because that's where I'm at the moment. And you need to hear them because I need to be raw, open, and authentic with you. Which gives you permission, by the way, to be that way for other people. So we want to connect through our shared experiences. We want to overcome our biases our patterns of concluding and judging things. Oftentimes in childhood, where we have absolute incomplete information about the world. And yet those things still creep into our lives. We want to be able to deal with them with skepticism. What we want to do is to find this power that offers new beginnings, redemptive grace. This is where pragmatism meets spirituality. See, God is in the being business, not in the doing business. Now, let me explain. Sometimes in my prayer life, I ask God to do things for me. And those prayers are largely unanswered. He's not in the doing business. He's in the being business. I am who I am is being shaped, colored by this organizing principle of His Spirit. He is shaping me to fulfill what it is I need to do. God is in the being business. He changes my heart. He raises my curiosity and interest. He points something out in this intuitive experience. Now it's up to me to get into the doing business as a result of my changed heart. Now, we have to be careful. I know oftentimes we say, take it from the big book, God is doing for us which we could not do for ourselves. Taking out of context, one might say, well, God is in the doing business. But I believe the experience behind those words, that God is giving us the power to be able to do things that we could not do just our own willpower. It's up to us to pick up our mats and walk. Okay, friends, I didn't quite finish what all I wanted to share with you, but I'm going to leave it at that because I don't want to go on too long. So I'll just pass it back to Natasha. And thank you very much for your generous listening.